Good morning, Keith Tebow from FRC Media. Thank you for joining us. We're helping you get prepared for the September 6th state primary election by speaking to as many candidates as we can between now and Election Day. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by District Attorney Tom Quinn. He is seeking election in the Democratic primary on September 6th. He is going to be challenged by Attorney Shannon McMahon on that day. Attorney Quinn, thank you for joining me. Nice to see you again.
Thanks for having us.
You know, let me ask you, a lot of times we speak to candidates and people in Fall River may not know who the candidate is. You're one of the few people we've spoken who's an incumbent. A lot of people may know who you are. So in general, why are you looking for another term?
Well, I've been the district attorney for the past 7.5 years, going on 8 years. I'm seeking a third term for re-election. I want to continue serving the people because there's still work to be done, and I want to build on the many accomplishments we've had during my time as district attorney. I've lived in Fall River for 35 years. I grew up in Dartmouth. I have strong roots in the South Coast. The community is very important to me. Protecting the community and dispensing justice in a fair way. And that's what I've been about. We've had a lot of successes, as I said. I've had a balanced approach to prosecution. I'm one of the few people who has both prosecuted murder cases and defended them. I believe in fairness. Very proud of our 95% homicide solve rate, which is well above the national average of 54%. Very proud of the high-profile convictions of Aaron Hernandez and Michelle Carter. That often doesn't happen in other jurisdictions due to the great work of our trial teams. Protecting the public from dangerous and violent criminals has been a priority of mine. People have a right to feel safe in their communities, and that's what we've been doing. Very proud of Elder Initiative that I started in the beginning of my first term. Our senior citizens have done so much for our communities. They deserve to be protected. That's exactly what I've been doing. I've gone to senior centers throughout the county numerous times to spread a message of, number one, I care about you, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect you through prosecution and prevention. Our rape kit initiative, very proud of. We came to learn during the investigation and prosecution of a unsolved New Bedford murder that thousands of rape kits statewide were not being fully tested. When women are victims of sexual assault, they go through a process of submitting to a rape kit where evidence is taken from their person, a very intrusive and demeaning procedure, but it's important to try to solve the case. And prosecute it. We came to learn that in that case, a rape kit was not fully tested. A defendant eventually was convicted of murder, John Laughlin, but he had been charged with rape in the late 90s. If that had been fully tested, he would have been apprehended years earlier. So instead of as upset I was about it, I did something about it. I went through the long process of applying for a grant, identifying a grant, successfully getting it, and by the end of this year, I'm told all of the rape kits, which are over 1,100 in Bristol County, be fully tested. Only DA's office in the state to file for it and obtain a grant. So victims deserve to have those kits fully tested, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. I want to get to some of these, in specifics as we move forward. One of the things that is not unique generally, but unique this year is, I believe you're the only race in Bristol County, and maybe even, on the ballot in Bristol County, that the primary is going to decide the race. There's no Republican challenger in November. How difficult is it to get out the vote? Traditionally, a lot of people don't vote in the primary. How difficult will it be? I know you've talked to a lot of people. You're out there campaigning. How difficult may it be to get voters to come out on the 6th?
Well, that's always a concern because it is the day after Labor Day. It's sooner than it generally is, but I've been out in the community meeting people. I've doing advertising to spread the message of accomplishments, and it's been very well received. As I said, I feel that I'm a community person. We have strong roots in the county. serving the people in the community and now re-engaging with them, especially after COVID, is very important to me. So it's always a concern, but I think by spreading the message, informing people of the primary date, September 6th, and the importance of getting out to vote. Even though there's often a lower turnout in a primary, it's an important part of the election, and in this case will determine the next district attorney. So we're aware of it, making efforts to get people out. The many people that I've been seen throughout the county who support me.
Yeah, a lot of people will say low turnouts tend to benefit an incumbent because, again, you are known in the community and throughout Bristol County. But you don't take anything for granted, obviously.
Take nothing for granted. I'm here because of the support of the people, and I don't take their support for granted. So I've, again, been out in the community to, again, meet people, re-engage, and again, discuss the many accomplishments we have had, and there are many because of the team effort of our staff and the very capable people we have. Yeah.
I want to get into some of the issues. One of the items that we've, I think, even touched upon last time we spoke, and this has been since prior to COVID, but exacerbated by COVID, is backlog, in the court system. I know you work closely with the judiciary to try to get cases moving forward. What more can a DA do to work with the judiciary to try to get these cases heard?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to be ready to prosecute these cases, especially trials, and we have been. So since trials resumed a year ago, we have successfully prosecuted approximately 18 murder cases in Superior Court, unheard of in Bristol County. The staff has been ready. We've had to fight through ups and downs of COVID even during that time. We were shut down for almost 2 months in December through February. Been some issues in trials with some of the witnesses or participants getting COVID, but we have fought through it. But I'll give you one example how I've dealt with the backlog, and I think this is what I'm about, is getting things done. For years in Superior Court, where the most serious cases are tried, there's only been 2 trial sessions. Once in a while, years ago, there was a session for a month to do homicides. That was not sufficient to prosecute these cases in a reasonably timely manner, especially child abuse cases, violent crimes. So I fought to add a 3rd trial session to the Superior Court. And I had to, the court there were objections to it. They didn't want to give up a courtroom. But after fighting for it and making a presentation that this was the right thing to do, that Bristol County deserved this resource, a 3rd trial session was created approximately 15 months before COVID. So beginning of 2019, I believe we started it. It was very effective in bringing to trial cases that would often be continued and could languish more than they should in the criminal justice system. So that's a substantial accomplishment. Fighting for that session, it's now critical as we come out of the COVID backlog to have as many trial sessions as been available. So I've always been one to push cases forward, and that's a concrete example. Adding a 3rd trial session that's never been done before in Bristol County that's operating so we can deal with these cases more efficiently and victims don't have to be deal with the anxiety of cases not being reached, especially child abuse victims.
A lot of what is brought up, I had the opportunity to speak to one of the candidates running for Bristol County Sheriff, and the issue of recidivism, repeat offenders, comes up. What role can a DA play in terms of either during the prosecution of crimes or even trying to educate the community so you don't see people more than one time in the courtroom or, in the case of the sheriff, in the jail?
Well, from our perspective, people use that term recidivism, but it depends what you're talking about. Right. We have to deal with each case on an individual basis. You have individuals who sadly have a lifetime of committing crimes, and some of them are dangerous to the community. So you're not going to stop some of that. It's not like it's the vast majority of people, but some people, for whatever reason, cannot comply with the law. And when they're hurting women, they're committing violent acts in society, shootings, robberies of innocent people, hurting the elderly, they've got to be held accountable. And if they're habitual criminals who persist, especially in serious and violent crimes, they have to be kept off the street. That's what we have jails for. It's not a question of locking everybody up. There are many people that are appropriate to assist them with their issues. If there are substance abuse issues and they don't pose a threat to the community, we have programs in place that we support to try to assist them. But when you have individuals hurting people repeatedly, continuing to commit crimes that impact society, those people deserve to be off the street for the good of the public. It's not pleasant, but that's the way it is. So it's really a balanced approach. The most habitual criminals, the most violent criminals need to be held accountable and kept off the street, especially if there's repeat behavior. The lower level offenders, we have programs, we've diverted people from the criminal justice system, even prior to arraignment, to deal with substance abuse. But I mean, if you're a threat to the community, you have to be dealt with. And if you're a recidivist, then if you're continuing to commit armed robberies and hurting people, you have to be segregated from society. So it's a balanced approach. Some things you can't fix. You do your best you can, and I participate on both sides, trying to deal with those people. But the idea you're going to cure recidivism, that's been going on for 2,000 years.
Right. And I would think that this also dovetails into the district attorney's work for many years, even prior to you coming on board, of the educational programs that you have, that you work into the community in schools, and you talk about elder, right? So is that how that ties in as well?
Yes.
Start, educate them before they get in.
Absolutely. Like, for example, the seniors. Everybody's going to support seniors. They're certainly not going to say they don't. But I've done something about it. And what I've done personally is to go out to every senior center and more other related agencies in the county to spread the message of prevention. And I've made it very simple. Obviously, unfortunately, for several years, we couldn't go there because of COVID. So this is sort of a re-engaging with people. And I've gone to a number of senior centers the last several months. I feel re-engaged by messages simple. People are trying to scam you. They're all over the place. They're up to no good. You're good people, you're vulnerable. Do not answer the phone. Do not get involved in anything that you don't know, because nothing good's going to come of it. So in a very sincere and intense way, I'm bringing that message of prevention so that they don't give $25,000 to India, to a fictitious person, or whatever the scam is, the IRS coming after them, they don't come after you on the phone. So I think it's been successful. Some senior centers have prevented cases. It's very well received by our seniors. I've spoken, frankly, at this point, to thousands of them. And we go into the school to talk about domestic violence. We assist the Katie Brown Fund to prevent young people from getting involved in bad relationships. We assist many substance abuse issues and organizations. As I said, pre-arraignment diversion, juvenile diversion. So you want to prevent things before they happen, but sadly, some things are going to happen. It's the human condition, and you have to deal with them in a fair and appropriate way.
Yeah. The issue of gun violence, we're in some ways in Massachusetts a more fortunate situation than other states because we have strong gun laws, where we haven't seen, fortunately, mass shootings in Massachusetts. How do you look going forward in terms of dealing with gun violence in our cities, New Bedford, Fall River in particular? Obviously, our other cities, Taunton and Attleboro in the county, may have their issues, but those are the two key cities.
Well, gun violence has been a priority of mine since I've been the DA and as the first assistant under former DA Sutter. People have to feel secure in their communities, and if you have this lawlessness going on. So what I've done is to utilize dangerousness hearings to keep the most dangerous people off the street. Those involved with firearms and shootings are in that category. And we have people assigned to deal with this. I think we've been very effective in holding people accountable. There's been a number of people who have received sentences for the illegal possession of firearms. In some cases, they're habitual offenders for shootings that, again, obviously can injure and kill people. I think we, are very focused on that, and I think we've been effectively dealing with that when it's committed. We focus on who some of the major offenders are, and the gun laws in Massachusetts certainly have prevented shootings that have occurred across the country, which are terrible tragedies. There's a right to bear arms, but there's a reasonable balance to it, and I think you have that in Massachusetts. And we, again, are very focused and prioritized people running around with illegal firearms and using them to hurt people in the community.
You mentioned the use of dangerousness hearings. Are you in favor of what Governor Baker had proposed in terms of expanding the parameters on how that can be used?
Yes, I've actually been one of the advocates for that as the president of the Massachusetts District Attorney Association for the past 7 or 8 months, and several years ago working with his office to add offenses to the dangerousness statute. I'm just told a case came down today in which it's a very serious motor vehicle accident. Somebody is killed. Our position was that this is something that person should have to be held as a danger. I'm just coming in now told that they, on very technical reasons, said you couldn't. So we pushed to make those types of offenses offenses that we could request a hearing. So I'm very supportive of that. It's common sense change. We just had a conviction this week. Rape of a child was a huge age difference of 40 years. That person was not in custody, in part because we had no opportunity under the law to move to detain that person. No reasonable person would agree with that. So we're trying to make common sense changes that support public safety, that don't impair defendants' rights, and that will better serve the protection of the public.
Are you disappointed that the legislature has not moved forward in a more aggressive manner on this?
I'm very disappointed. However, we'll continue to work with the legislature. As I said, I think this can be done in a simple way. There aren't significant changes that have to be made. Again, they're common sense changes that people who aren't even lawyers could agree to. But there are different issues going on. As I said, I've worked with the governor's office on that issue, and we'll continue to fight for these common sense and appropriate changes that will better protect the public.
How do you feel your relationship has been with local law enforcement in cities and towns across the county, and how, if you can, improve upon those relationships?
I think overall I've had a good relationship with law enforcement. I'm about doing the job in a professional manner. I think they, from what I understand that and support that. We have a state police unit attached to our office that is functioning very well. They primarily investigating homicides, and deaths, unattended deaths committed throughout the county. So I have a good relationship with them. If there are issues of accountability with the police, I've addressed them. But the DA, and the district attorney, and law enforcement need to be working together to best serve the public. And obviously, you'd have to ask them, but in talking with chiefs throughout I made it a priority to have good relationships, to be the DA for all of Bristol County. They seem positive and supportive of me in the relationship we have with them to better serve the constituents. So you always want to improve on it. I think especially coming out of COVID, and the things you can work on, whether it's communication or different issues. But overall, I think I've had a strong relationship with law enforcement that better serves the people.
Can there be a delicate balance? Because here in Fall River, there's been some cases of police officers that have been suspended, let go because of some issues. Some of those that your office has actually been involved with in terms of investigating. Is there a delicate balance when, you get that call to say, we want you to look into this, and you have to deal with a specific officer in a specific instance? Well,
there can be a balance because obviously we work with the police. But I mean, again, I'm about doing the job. We've these matters with Fall River, we're prosecuting some of the cases. Mm-hmm. We've indicted an officer in the past for misconduct. So any suggestion that these matters aren't taken seriously or dealt with properly is just not accurate. But obviously, if there is a potential conflict, we could have somebody brought in to prosecute the case. But where I've seen police misconduct that, is criminal, we've acted upon it and charged people. But it's just, I wouldn't say it's a balance, but obviously investigating the police, if it's appropriate, is something that has to be done if there's criminal activity. And but overall, as I've indicated, we're working together with law enforcement to protect the public and better serve the communities that the various departments serve.
The role of the district attorney, you mentioned it, is to be fair and balanced to both the victims and those who are, waiting their turn in court. Can the district attorney's office, although, play a more proactive role in terms of helping support or maybe even advocate for people who may be underrepresented in our region in some way, shape, or form?
Well, again, respectfully, I think it's a general question. I mean, I'm about being fair. So, I mean, we have cases that come in. You advocate by handling the case appropriately. Again, we were involved in diverting people from the system who we don't feel would benefit from some, programs instead of having the case progress through the system. We believe in, for example, I've been involved, we created a Bristol Alliance throughout the county with the South Coast Hospital, working together to bring all partners in the county together to work on issues of substance abuse and addiction. We just re-engage with our summit. We bring people together several months ago. So those are the things we're trying to do, is partner in the communities on these issues and have a balanced and practical approach to prosecution. Many people, it's the minority of people who are dangers to the community, but those people have to be dealt with. If there are other ways which we have to deal with less nonviolent offenders through substance abuse treatment, we've partnered with, again, community programs to prevent things before they happen. But the criminal justice system is dealing with a lot of people who have long-standing issues from childhood that are very sad, and I've always been sympathetic to people who haven't had the best lot in life as a human being, as a prosecutor. That's important, but the criminal justice system can't meant to be a panacea for all these issues. You have to primarily deal with the cases, hold people accountable, give people consideration, and hopefully they're partnering with other agencies. You can at least make things better than they were when the individual came in, either by holding people accountable or people can obtain treatment.
You mentioned the testing of the rape kits, hundreds, I'm sure, right? That have
well over 1,000.
Right, that are that will hopefully bring light to some of these potential cases moving forward. You also mentioned that you're also working on cold cases. How does that work in terms of balancing what's in front of you, current cases, but also trying to bring justice to people that may have not had it?
I think it's putting in the extra effort to see that things are done right. With respect to the rape kits, we learned, as I mentioned initially, during the investigation of an unsolved murder in New Bedford, that rape kits were not being fully tested. In that case, a defendant was charged with rape, John Laughlin, in the late 90s. Case was dismissed because the victim went to Portugal. They did not fully test a rape kit. We didn't know it at the time, or the district attorney's office didn't know it, nor did law enforcement. There's a murder in New Bedford several years later. They take the evidence, they put it in the national database. There's no hit. He's arrested in Tennessee a number of years later. He has to take a sample, it hits to the murder case. The point is, if they had fully tested the rape kit and was in the system, he would have been charged with the murder much sooner. We found out about that, very upset. However, did something about it. Search for a grant. Was there one available? Because the state, it was a systematic failure by the state lab to do this, going back 25 years. So we applied for the funding. We awarded the grant about 4 years ago. The next year, the funding was made available. We had to do an inventory with the lab, the state lab, and the police department to see exactly what we were dealing with, and it turned out there were over 1,100 untested rape kits in our county. Once we obtained the grant, I hired somebody to prioritize the cases, paid for out of our funds, and eventually the lab did not move quickly to test these cases. COVID hit. But with prodding, eventually, last year the testing picked up significantly, and I'm told by the end of this year, all of our kits, over 1,100, will be fully tested. What's critical about that is, number one, if nothing came of it, it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. But we've had several cold case violent sexual assaults that have been solved as a result of that. Several in New Bedford. We spoke to the victims. They are very pleased, despite the trauma and the uncertainty that their assailant was still out there, that we have put the effort in to solve these cases. So again, this had nothing to do with the district attorney's office. It was the fault of the state lab. Thousands of cases statewide weren't tested. Right. And I think that's just a significant accomplishment to solve that problem and do what was right, and charges have come from it.
Yeah. We're just about ready to wrap up. I want to give you a couple of minutes to speak directly to the voters of Fall River on why they should consider you for re-election on September 6th.
Thank you very much. Well, with your support, I've been the district attorney for almost 8 years. I'm about doing the job, protecting the public from dangerous criminals, being fair and balanced, successful prosecutions of Aaron Hernandez and Michelle Carter, focusing on elders, our seniors, not talking about it, but doing something about it. prosecuting cases, but even more importantly, preventing them. We've recovered money we never would have recovered, prosecuted cases that never would have been prosecuted, and prevented crimes that would have been occurred. Our cold case initiative, going back almost 50 years, reviewing all homicides. We've solved several homicides. We haven't given up on the cases for the victims. We solved the case of a brutal serial rapist through DNA, using advanced DNA genealogy technology, hunting the person down in Maine, and he's in prison for the rest of his life because of the efforts of the cold case unit. We have a DNA initiative where there was a lot of untested DNA by people required to do so. We put forth an effort to have that tested. Again, this is all about serving the community, doing the job to get the best results for the community, and with your continued support, I would like to continue to fight for the citizens of Bristol County. Thank you very much.
All right, District Attorney Tom Quinn, thank you for joining us. All the best, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you for your time.
All right, and thank you for joining us today here on FRC Media, and please make a point to vote on Tuesday, September 6th.